Have you ever wondered why we're so terrified of speaking in public? It's this really common, really human fear. And it turns out psychology doesn't just have one answer, it has 7. Today, we're going to take this one single fear and look at it through the 7 major lenses of modern psychology. And I promise, by the end, you'll see this behavior in a whole new way. You know who just absolutely nailed this? Jerry Seinfeld. He had this classic bit where he points out that for most people, the fear of public speaking is even greater than the fear of death. It's funny because it's true, right? We all chuckle, but for anyone who's actually stood up there with their heart pounding, you know it's no joke. So that really is the big question, isn't it? Why? Why does something where you're in zero physical danger feel so completely, utterly terrifying? It seems like it should have a simple answer, but as we're about to find out, psychology tells us it's complicated.
Okay, so to crack this mystery, we're going to open up psychology's toolkit. And the cool thing is, it doesn't give us just one tool. It gives us 7 different perspectives, and each one gives us a unique angle on why so many of us dread getting up on that stage.
And here they are. This is our roadmap for today. We've got the psychodynamic, behavioral, humanistic, cognitive, biological, evolutionary, and sociocultural perspectives. We're going to walk through each one and use it to unlock a piece of the puzzle, starting with 2 of the big old-school rivals. So let's start with 2 of the oldest ideas, and honestly, they represent a classic clash in psychology. One looks deep into the hidden, unseen parts of our mind, while the other says, nope, if I can't see it and measure it, it doesn't count.
So in one corner, you've got the psychodynamic view, which is all about Sigmund Freud. It's focused on the unconscious mind, all the hidden desires and conflicts driving us. And in the other corner, you have the behaviorists, like Watson and Skinner. They argued, look, we can't see the unconscious, so we can't study it scientifically. Let's just focus on what people do.
Think of the psychodynamic perspective like an iceberg. The little bit you can see above the water, that's your conscious mind. But the huge, massive part underneath, that's the unconscious. And it's filled with all these repressed memories and conflicts, mostly from childhood, that are secretly running the show. So from this point of view, your fear of public speaking has nothing to do with the stage or the audience today. It might actually be an echo of some forgotten memory, like a parent or a teacher who shut you down when you were 5. The fear is coming from a conflict that's buried so deep, you don't even know it's there.
Now the behaviorists, they took a completely different path. They basically said, forget the unconscious. For them, it's all about learning. Our behavior is shaped by our environment. We do things, and if something good happens, we're more likely to do it again. If something bad happens, we learn to avoid it. Simple as that. So behaviorists would say your fear is a learned response. It's not some deep, dark secret. Maybe one time, years ago, you were giving a report in class, you stumbled over a word, and a few kids chuckled. Boom, that's a negative outcome. Your brain got conditioned to associate public speaking with humiliation, so now you avoid it.
Okay, so you have these first 2 big ideas. One says you're controlled by your hidden past. The other says you're controlled by your environment. A lot of psychologists found that, well, a little depressing. So a new movement emerged, often called the third wave, and it had a much more optimistic take on all of us. And this is the humanistic perspective. Thinkers like Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers came along and said, hey, wait a minute, we're not just puppets. They argued that we have free will and that we have this innate drive to grow and become the best possible versions of ourselves. Maslow called this self-actualization. And what's so powerful about this view is how it reframes the whole problem. A humanist wouldn't see your fear as some kind of sickness to be cured. They'd see it as a challenge. It's an opportunity for growth. Overcoming that fear is a huge step on your journey toward becoming your best self.
All right, next up, we've got a trio of more modern perspectives that take us back inside our own heads, but in some very different ways. We're going to look at how our conscious thoughts, our physical brain chemistry, and even our ancient history all play a part. So these next 3 are the cognitive, biological, and evolutionary perspectives. Each one is going to give us a different layer of the explanation, from the thoughts you're having right now, all the way down to your genes and your caveman brain.
So the cognitive perspective brought the mind back into the picture, but this time it's all about our conscious thoughts. The core idea here is that it's not the event itself that causes our feelings, but our interpretation of that event. It's all about how we process the information. So from this angle, the fear of public speaking is all about your thoughts. It's that little voice in your head, your inner critic just going wild. It's the, what if I forget my lines? What if they think I'm an idiot? What if they can see my hands shaking?
The fear isn't coming from the audience, it's coming from that catastrophic story you're telling yourself. The biological perspective gets right down to the nuts and bolts, the physical hardware. It says that everything we think and feel is tied to a biological process. Your fear can be traced back to your genetics, to the stress hormone cortisol flooding your system, and especially to your brain's little alarm system, a part called the amygdala, just going off. Now this one is closely related. If the biological view looks at the brain hardware we have now, the evolutionary view asks, okay, but why do we have that hardware? It's all based on Charles Darwin's work, and it argues that our modern behaviors are really just ancient survival programs that helped our ancestors live long enough to pass on their genes.
And this is where it gets really interesting. An evolutionary psychologist would say that to your ancient brain, standing alone with a huge group of strangers staring at you looks an awful lot like being a lone human getting sized up by a rival tribe or a predator. It triggers the exact same fight or flight response. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between a tough crowd and a saber-toothed tiger. Okay, so we've looked deep inside the unconscious mind. We've looked at our learned behaviors, our thoughts, and our biology. Now, for the final piece of the puzzle, we need to zoom all the way out and look at the world around us.
And this is the sociocultural perspective. It argues that you can't really understand a person without understanding their social and cultural context. Our behavior is powerfully shaped by the expectations of our society, our family, and our culture. Think about it. In some cultures, making direct eye contact is a sign of confidence. In others, it's a sign of disrespect. That stuff matters.
Phew. Okay, we have just gone through 7 completely different, sometimes contradictory explanations for the exact same behavior. So, after all that, the big question is, which one is actually right?
And the modern answer is, they all are. At least, they're all part of the answer. See, most psychologists today don't pick just one team. They use what's called the biopsychosocial model. And the name says it all. Bio for our biological and evolutionary wiring. Psycho for our thoughts, emotions, and learned behaviors. And social for our family, community, and cultural influences. To really understand someone, you have to see how all 3 of these levels are constantly interacting. So, the real goal isn't to choose a winner, it's to have a full toolkit, a whole set of lenses you can use. And now that you have them, I want you to think about some behavior in your own life. Anything from biting your nails to why you love a certain kind of music. How many different ways can you explain it now? What new things do you see when you look through each lens? Because when it comes to understanding people, especially ourselves, the richest view is always